I'm Holly.
I'm Pete from BoardGrove Architects.
Today we're here to present Melbourne Now Community Hall. So Melbourne Now was an exhibition run by NGV last March, 10 years since the previous Melbourne Now exhibition, and really the purpose of the exhibition was to celebrate Melbourne's art, design and architecture creative industries, really capturing a snapshot of time. NGV asked us to design a community hall, which was in the first gallery space, and really was a sort of event space that was part of the exhibition. They commissioned 4 works, 4 sort of performance and dance works, and as such they really wanted the space to be able to operate in the round. But further to this, they also had this sort of, when we were briefed, this loose idea that there would be talks and workshops, screenings and music performances. So in addition to sort of being multi-directional, it also needed to be singular in its direction. Further to this, it needed to have a very strong sense of identity and presence because it was the first space that you encountered through the exhibition, and it needed to hold its own both when it was active and inactive.
So this is at the beginning of the briefing from NGV, this was the plan we received for the exhibition layout. So on the right-hand side of the page where the purple, pinky rectangles are, that's the main foyer of NGVA. And then you come in through the entrance, coming towards the left, and then community hall was the square space off to the right. And I think, I guess this diagram shows the kind of key components of the space. There's a square in the middle, which is 7 by 7, which is their dance and performance space. There was a U shape of bleacher seating, and then they also had a stage with a screen, which is the pink rectangle at the top, and at the back we needed to find some kind of space for storage and AV. I guess our sort of critique of this sort of where it was at when we brought on board was that we felt that the orientation sort of turns its back to the wider exhibition. That sort of disengages the space from the wider sort of circulation. The entry is really narrow. And we also felt that from when you're doing sort of talks or screenings that the seating so sort of acutely angled to the screen that it would be a really uncomfortable experience to sit and watch a presenter. Plus the AV and storage was quite a compressed space. So early on we just sort of started testing some different potential layouts for the space. From the U to an L-shaped configuration. And what we felt was pushing the third drawing along, pushing the kind of 7 by 7 dance space into the corner, and then using this kind of off-the-shelf bleacher seating to create this curve, which gives you that kind of sense of kind of sort of wrapping around the space. And then the kind of 7 by 7 becomes the kind of multifunctional screening workshop performance space. But through this process, we came up with a problem. So the red spot, we discovered that the off-the-shelf bleacher seating didn't comply with building regs, so we suddenly presented this opportunity for something bespoke, and we went off developing the curve structure for the space. So the curve creates this really kind of nice diagram. You get this kind of positive space where the performance and audience sit, and the negative space, the white space, becomes our back of house storage and AV control area.
So here we can see the structure is designed. There's a sort of low height divisional, for want of a better word, wall between the back of house and the front of house, repetitious module with then sort of faceted bleacher seating set off it, and then down in the bottom left hand corner is all the sort of open space which allowed for varying loose furniture arrangements. So here we've got the talk presentation mode where everything's on the sort of 45-degree angle to the presenter, and then the next kind of scenario is a dance performance setting where you end up with both front and back, 360 from one of a sort of looseness viewing point. The next one where we've got screenings, the screen came down in the corner, more casual setting, and then workshop mode where the tables at the back of house were brought out and the stadium sort of seating became sort of place for people to sit and observe and watch, children and other participants create. Here, just sort of looping back to what Pete was saying a bit earlier on, you can kind of see the evolution from where we started to where we got to in terms of the the final design opening itself much more out to the rest of the gallery space. And really it was sort of through its sort of positioning in the space really able to be quite inclusive in that people didn't necessarily need to move into the space. They could participate from the periphery and the sidelines.
So what we really liked is this curve. It gives you that sense of inclusivity, or kind of starts to sort of imply in the round, and you can see the other people. So rather than that kind of traditional sort of rows of seats, that curve, so we sort of see other people sitting and viewing the performance. And then because we're sitting in this big wide void of a gallery space, we sort of create a canopy to create a sense of enclosure and a bit more, reduce the scale and also focus the view towards where the performance and the screenings would sit.
So alongside this, looping back to the sort of idea about identity of the space, it needed to be a very sort of optimistic space. It was the start of the exhibition. It was a big celebration about Melbourne, and as such, we brought colour into the proposal, and we started thinking about fairgrounds and Ferris wheels, fairy floss, sunshine. Quite different to kind of your traditional theatre type setting that's quite dark and royal. So we painted the stadium was all painted out in yellow with a very pale pink wall, and then we discreetly placed these orange LED lights on the uprights, which had this kind of magical sort of ephemeral effect on the back pink wall, in that it changed the tone of that colour. We didn't actually know exactly what was going to happen, but as the structure moves in and out from the wall, there's a kind of varying gradation from purples to violets to oranges and pinks.
And sort of looking back to the idea that NGV like to try and reuse as much as possible. So rather than being able to purchase an off-the-shelf bleacher system, we designed a sort of bleacher which could be reused in a future exhibition. So the substructure is an orthogonal frame, and then you can lay different shaped tops to create curved straight lines, and they can store that away for another exhibition. And then the steps are all bolted in, so they can be taken out and reconfigured to suit a different configuration. And here we have just a few slides of it in operation. So you can see here how the kind of loose seating and then the bleachers raises people up so they all get a great view to a presenter or a screen. And you can see the AV team in the background peering through the windows. Here we have a performance sort of in the round, so you can see the kind of entry space of the gallery becomes this kind of informal standing area, and the kind of people curving around the space. They did musical performances. There's enough generosity in the space around the kind of performers to have people dancing in the space at the same time. You can see people sitting underneath the screen, creating that full 360 loop around the space.
I'll just end this last slide.
Yeah. And then these are the workshop slides. And you can see the sort of informality when it's not in use, students just hanging out, waiting for their next tour or teacher to come back. That's it.
Okay, thank you.